Excellent. Beautiful. Okay, so let's begin. This is both of our first IG live, so bear with us, anybody who's watching. So happy to be here. So happy to be joined by Dr. Liz. Yeah, Instagram and technology is amazing. So yeah, thank you, Liz. I'll do a little formal introduction. So my name is Erin Edwards. I guide women to become a wilder, more intuitively aligned version of themselves. And I believe that's the first step in that is always self-awareness. So today we have a very special guest with us. I want to bring into the spotlight Dr. Liz Dalglish. Yeah, today we want to talk about something that is a little bit taboo maybe in some circles, but something that's probably been puzzling some women since puberty, and that is PMS and our period. So yeah, I'm hosting this on behalf of the company that I co-founded called Queen Wellness. And Queen is an online wellness education lifestyle platform focused on teaching mindfulness and rewilding women so that they can live healthier through movement, mindfulness, and through proper nutrition. And so we are here today joined by the fabulous Dr. Liz, the period whiz. So I literally just coined that. I think it's great. I think you should probably start calling yourself that.
Yeah, I can.
I love it.
I like it.
Yeah. So Dr. Liz is a licensed naturopathic doctor here in Ontario. She helps women get regular, painless, and PMS-free periods. So, yeah. So glad to have you, Dr. Liz.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. And again, my first IG Live as well. And I'm so fortunate to be able to do it with you and Queen Wellness. So I'm very excited.
Amazing. Yeah, we're so happy to have you. And this is kind of my goal to build this platform as a way to help women kind of take back control of their lives and take back some sense of honor in their own femininity and in their own power. So recently, Liz, I've been wondering, how can women get back into alignment? Hey, Hannah. Instagram is amazing. Sorry for interrupting. How can women get back into alignment, back into our center, back to a place where I guess we run as efficiently as and authentically as we want? So I think the answer lies in our period. And trust me, once we tune into our periods, I think that a lot more things start to align in our lives. And I think Dr. Liz is also going to have a lot to say about that. Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's interesting because when you look at sort of today's modern society, everything's sort of based off like a 24-hour timeline, or like a 360-year calendar, 365 days a year calendar, which is interesting, but it's not necessarily what our monthly cycles align to. So we're based off, I think people who have periods have their cycles that are more like a lunar calendar, and if you look into that philosophy, there's times of the month where you are go and can really hone into productivity and all that good stuff. But then there's also times of the month where you have to relax, rest, and restore yourself in order to be sort of a functional human being. So I think that's kind of interesting from my perspective, like kind of that philosophy and how you can really work to honor your cycle, honor your menstrual cycle, and what you can do to optimize your health that way. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, and I think we'll probably get more into this as the conversation gets going. But definitely, I want to talk about kind of honoring the more yin aspects of our lives, and we'll get to that. But all I'll say for now is that is exactly the feminine side of us that we don't often appreciate and honor when we are living in this kind of 24-hour, 8 hours a day work week, 7 days a week kind of thing. and we both at least have some experience about living in Toronto. So, you know what that city's like. It's just like go, 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 nonstop, never sleeps. And I think a lot of us, especially here in the city, could probably benefit from taking a step back and kind of just like remembering how to become more of an innate, knowing, wise woman here in the city. Yeah. Yeah. And so thanks, Liz. I just want to say for everybody listening that we are going to talk about a few things today. We have a few topics on the agenda. So I guess first off is I'm just going to ask you in a second, Dr. Liz, to kind of just give us an overview of our cycles, our menstrual cycles, as we call them. And then we're going to actually discuss some foods and why fats are actually super important for honoring the feminine, helping us reconnect with those fats and actually reestablishing our hormones. And we're going to talk a little about this thing called seed cycling. And I don't know if some of you listeners have heard about seed cycling, but it is amazing. A lot of naturopathic doctors use it to kind of help patients rebalance their cycles. And then we're going to talk a little bit about exercise and some common herbs to help all y'all when you have a heavy flow and a wide set vagina. Mean Girls reference, anybody?
Love it.
Yeah. So basically our goal here today is to have everyone walking away with a new perspective on just how to live in your menstrual cycle in that week, but also in the other 3 weeks that you are living, and how to really honor those. And I want everyone to stay right till the end, just because we have some really golden nuggets of info and some great ways to connect with us further so that we can help keep giving the gift that keeps on giving. Perfect. So yeah, Dr. Liz, take it away. I'm going to ask you just a few things or I guess maybe just explain a little bit more about our cycle and maybe what it means in terms of like the broader concept of drawing up the feminine.
Absolutely. So as I kind of mentioned before, we operate sort of on a different cycle comparatively to men, and a lot of our philosophies are based off this sort of yearly calendar. But again, and we also have a lot of masculine energy like being projected into today's society, like with being very busy and aggressive and go, go, go. But I like to really emphasize like the restoration and rest with my patients in order to really optimize like period health and menstrual health. In terms of like some nitty-gritty facts about like periods and menstrual cycles and sort of what they are, I'm going to go into some details now. Typically, your normal menstrual cycle is about anywhere from 21 to 34 days in length, and that's going from like day one of one period to day one of the next period. Mm-hmm. So your first lead to the next, your first day of bleeding for one period to the first day of bleeding for the next. And if you have a cycle that's longer than 34 days or shorter than 21 days, definitely talk to your healthcare provider to figure out what's going on, because that's not necessarily an optimal cycle length. And there could be some underlying health conditions that you need to address. Having spotting between your periods is also abnormal. So double check if you have that on a regular basis. Talk to your healthcare provider, because it's something that should be addressed just to make sure that your health's okay and that you're being taken care of. So your period itself is usually about anywhere from 3 to 7 days long, but on average, I would say it's about 5. Typically, like your period blood is going to be a bright red color, not something that's like a darker red or black or brown. If you have that, definitely check with your healthcare provider, because maybe there's something up. Maybe there's you're not completely bleeding from the last period. and you have to definitely figure out what is going on there. So you want to see bright red blood ideally. Typically, also, you'll have a heavier flow at the beginning of your period, and that will lessen over time. So if you are someone who has like a really heavy period and you're bleeding for longer than 7 days, double check with your healthcare provider, because you never know what's going on, and that is something that could be addressed as well. Other things that you typically see or you want to have with the watchful period is minimal to no pain or cramps. So this is something I see quite a bit in practice. Like people kind of suck it up and think, oh, like the pain is kind of normal, like it happens to a lot of women. And I think that's sort of a myth. I think there's lots of things that can be done to help reduce the symptoms and make your day-to-day functioning so much better, because just because a symptom's common doesn't mean it's normal. So period pain really shouldn't be a thing. Yeah.
Yes, amen to that. I like how many of us are just like, oh, I'm PMSing. Literally, that's like the most common phrase, you know. It's actually not okay. Like I mean it's okay to express your feelings, but it's, although it's very common to get pain during your period, it's not often usual, or you know, it's not supposed to be there kind of thing. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, and any PMS symptoms in sort of the window of time right before you get your period that then disappear once your period begins, any of those symptoms, if they're breast tenderness, bloating, mood swings or irritability, things like menstrual migraines, anything like that in that window, like food cravings and stuff like that, definitely is, again, something common but not normal. So if you find that these symptoms or signs are really impacting like your overall quality of life, if you can't go to work, if you have to like take a crap ton of like pain meds in order to deal with the period pain just at the beginning, if anything is disrupting that day-to-day activity, definitely do something about it. Talk and get some information about the understanding of the underlying root cause as to why, and be with a healthcare provider that's trained in, like, for example, naturopathic medicine or any of the other alternative healthcare medicines, or your doctor yourself, your medical doctor as well.
Yeah.
Because integrative care is really where it's at.
True that. Yeah, I just really want to reiterate what Dr. Liz just said. It's actually not normal to get breast tenderness, bloating, diarrhea, mood swings, insomnia, food cravings, low back pain even, you know, pain in the muscles. It's so common that we think it's normal, but it's actually not. And there are a lot of ways that you can naturally help yourself and your body go through your period without having all of those symptoms. So yeah, and that I guess brings me to the next kind of topic that I wanted to discuss, and that is, you know, we throw around kind of honoring the feminine, that phrase, a lot, and I really want to acknowledge that that is part of, I guess for me, it stems from my learning of traditional Chinese medicine and the concept of really how yin and yang should be balanced in the body and in your aura and, you know, everywhere else in the world. And so yin, Y-I-N, and then yang is Y-A-N-G, really refer to kind of the more feminine. So the yin is more feminine part of you, and yang is the more masculine. And the basic point is that both, like everything, should really have a masculine side and a feminine side, but we don't often think of things like that, and that's okay. Basically all that is that we kind of in relation to see things as more feminine or more masculine, but really in essence everything has masculine and feminine traits. What would you say about that? Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, like I think like even when you look at like when I look at myself and my own health, like I have points in where I am I'm really goal oriented and focused and active. But then if you are too much in that space, if you work too much, you're channeling that so much of the time, you are going to drain yourself, right? When you think about it logically, like, oh, if you have, months of meetings, deadlines, like tons of projects on the go, there's going to be a point in time where you can't necessarily sustain like high levels of intense productivity and activity. So for me, I have to think like, okay, if I'm go, go, go all the time, where in my routine, where in my day-to-day do I insert periods of rest? And where do I take that time to like acknowledge me and like what I've accomplished, but also take that time to just recuperate and restore and gear up for whatever's coming next, because there's always going to be something coming up next, right? So you really have to think about, pre-plan, and think about strategically what you can incorporate diet and lifestyle wise to have healthy habits so that you achieve the goals that you want to achieve, but also take time for your health.
Yeah, and I want to backpedal there for a second, because Dr. Liz and I have both been trained in traditional Chinese medicine, so maybe not everybody knows exactly what we're talking about in terms of yin and yang, besides like the whole feminine and masculine concepts. But basically, if you can think of yin as that feminine energy, not female, but more so feminine in the sense that it kind of has those qualities in regards to the whole feminine cosmos. So like, yin is considered to be the things that are a bit more slow, the things that are a bit more soft, more yielding, anything that's cold or wet or passive, you can describe as, in Chinese medicine, as feminine, and as yin, basically. And so yin, that element is also associated with water, the earth, the moon, and nighttime or darkness, comparatively to yang, by contrast, which is more of like the fast, hard, solid, focused, hot, dry, but really active concept. So you can think of yang things as being more so like fire, the sky, like the sun, daytime in general. So often, we are almost predisposed to be a bit more yang, because the daytime is when we wake up and when we do stuff. But I think really honoring our yin side, our feminine side, can bring us back to a place where we slow down, where we let go, where we don't always feel like we need to control the outcome, or the things that we do have to lead to an outcome. And so that's, I think, what a lot of us don't do during our period, during that week of bleeding, is that we don't often just slow down from our regular life. And maybe that's a good reminder to us all to really just be in that feeling a bit more, and just don't try not to do as much. And we think that doing is really, if we don't do, what else will we be? That's totally okay. It's truly is like a time to slow down and to really sink into whatever feelings are coming up for us.
Absolutely. I think taking the time to taking that few days to maybe even a week just to recuperate, because your body's gone through so much. It's gone through a bunch of metabolic changes. You just let out however many, maybe on average 40 to 50 milliliters a lot. It takes, and that's there's a sacred part to that too, right? There's an aspect that you have to honor to rebuild then what's been lost, and take that time for yourself.
I love that. Yeah, to really rebuild. I mean, that is a very significant thing, just seeing how much comes out of doing less. And there is a lot, I say the same thing to my mindfulness clients, just get out of your own way. Your ego is literally in the way. Just step aside and see what has unfolded already without your doing, just being in the moment. And thank you for that, Liz. I think that's a really good way to put it, and that honoring and rebuilding that week is really there for us to do that. And I love nature. It's like a constant reminder. Everything in nature is a constant reminder for us to slow down, and we just, we take it so for granted.
Absolutely. And it's it's a powerful thing. Like the human body is a powerful thing, and it's just you take a moment to appreciate it and all its sort of glory and all that it's capable of. It's quite wonderful.
Yeah, we are beautiful beings. One more thing I want to point out is that you'll often see that people who aren't on an oral contraceptive pill, who have kind of been a little bit more aligned, so to speak, with their periods, it often coincides with the 28-day cycle of the moon. And maybe that's a little bit more as well connected to that yin water energy, that womb, that we all have. And not just females, but men as well have this space, this like sacral space where that sacral chakra is, and that really aligns with our energies, with our relationships, with the rest of the world, with people, with our partners, with our families. Yeah, can you speak to that at all? Just how it's so weird that people end up like syncing with each other and with the moon. It's super cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I think there's some interesting philosophies on how culture has been set up, or how civilization has been set up around different types of cycles. And I think that to really honor yourself, like setting yourself up for this lunar calendar, setting yourself up following the lunar moon cycle is an interesting concept for your health, from sort of a practical perspective as well. So I like that there's times in your cycle when, again, you can be more productive, but then there's also times where you allow yourself to rebuild and restore. Whether you have, I guess, a period or not, I think it's kind of interesting how it can be rebalanced for someone who doesn't have a period too, how you respond to that lunar cycle without a period. I think that's something interesting that can be delved more into, but I definitely, from periods itself, from that structure, from the menstrual cycle structure, it's really interesting how it balances out with, or how it coincides with that lunar cycle.
I love that. From there, I guess we can swing kind of from the water aspect, that yin aspect, into how eating fats can actually really help rebalance your hormones. What kind of foods, what kind of fats? Let us know.
Yeah. Okay, so fat is really interesting because when you think about it from sort of like a sciencey perspective, like 70% of our bodies are made up of water, but to maintain that water, we are basically composed of we're water contained by fat. So in our compartments of our body are water, but we're contained by the fat of cells. Fat, something called the phospholipid membrane in our tissues, which is really interesting. So I actually think of fat as almost like a building block of not just hormonal health, but health in general. And I think it's really important from like a menstrual perspective that women maintain healthy sources of fat, for example, like fatty fish. So all of like the salmon, the mackerel, anchovies, sardines, herring, they're great sources and they help nourish the body. Our fats can be made into hormones. So in terms of getting in terms of making sure that you have great healthy sources of hormones in your body, fatty fish is a great option, and I really like incorporating that into the diet. So whether you get it from fresh or canned, I think it's totally okay. Canned, especially when you're on the go and you're busy in the city, I think is a great option just to make sure you actually get those nutrients in. Another great source of fat is eggs as well. It's got great protein, but it also has some great fat. So if you are on the go and you can kind of feel your blood sugar dropping and you're like, oh my God, I need to get something in me right now, otherwise I'm going to be hangry. I think eggs are also a really great one to incorporate into your diet.
Yes, they're such a good little travel item, little travel
oh my
snack.
Gosh. I don't know where I would be without eggs.
Yes.
I don't know.
So
for school and like, you know, starting a business, absolutely.
yes. What about if someone is vegan, Dr. Liz? What can they eat to get some of those good omega-3s?
Great idea. So there's a bunch of different options for vegans. You can do things like avocados or olive oil. Olive oil is actually also a really good source of, it's primarily like omega-9s, which are really important for the health of your cells. And basically try to minimize like the saturated fat intake, especially during the luteal phase, is really important in your PMS window, because it can worsen some of the symptoms associated with PMS. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I read this somewhere maybe, or learned it in our nutrition class, but right now the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio in our standard American diet is about 20-1. Traditionally, the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio should have been about 3 or 4-1. So yes, we are supposed to get a few more omega-6s, but not as many as what we do now. And a lot of those comes from cooking oil, actually, like canola oil and those things. So kind of on that same thought, Dr. Liz, what about seed cycling? What is it? How do people connect with seeds in a way that makes them balance their hormones? What is that?
Yeah, so seeds, again, if you're vegan or vegetarian, seeds are a great source of omega-3s as well. And seed cycling is sort of an old school naturopathic intervention. It's kind of, for me, I explain to patients, it's sort of a sexy way to sell eating a regular source of omega-3s throughout your month. And they're definitely, some of the fats in there are really great and useful for things. Rebalance your hormones. So generally how it works is that in the first half of your cycle, so let's say for the sake of explanation, your cycle is 28 days. So for the first half of your cycle, during your follicular phase, you eat about 1 tablespoon of ground flax per day and 1 tablespoon of pumpkin seeds per day, incorporated however you want to, in salads, in smoothies, in like whatever you can get your hands on.
Okay.
And you eat that for the first 14 days of your cycle. So again, during your follicular phase. And that's supposed to help with estrogen metabolism and regulation in your body. Some of those 2 particular seeds have a lot of phytoestrogen, so there's support for estrogen metabolism essentially in your body. And then the second half of the cycle, from days 15 to sort of 28, for example, you would have 1 tablespoon of sesame seeds and 1 tablespoon of sunflower seeds. Again, the behind that it helps to support essentially the estrogen and progesterone fluctuations at the different times of your cycle. So it's pretty interesting because it does incorporate different sources of these fats in your body, or from different sources in your diet, but it also convinces you to actually eat the seeds every day, which I think is also like kind of a barrier through treatment. So definitely it's something I will suggest to patients. If for whatever reason they can't get a hold of all the different types of seeds throughout the month, I totally get that, because sometimes you just kind of forget to, or it's not, on sale at the grocery store or whatever. Generally what I recommend then is for patients to incorporate ground flax seeds, sort of on average like a couple heaping tablespoons per day in their diet, which has been shown in the research to really help as well. So sort of like we've got the traditional like naturopathic seed cycling, and also if you can't do that, the ground flax really works as well.
And so I know, I'm going to ask this because people probably are also wondering as well, if I just incorporate, I'm really bad at taking pills and changing my diet and everything else. If I incorporate flax, a few heaping tablespoons every day for the month, or just for those like first 2 weeks or last 2 weeks before my period?
Generally, if you want to see effects, it's pretty much, it's more recommended more days than not. So if you can do that, let's say 4 or 5 days out of 7 of your week, regardless of the time of your cycle, that would be ideal. But if you can't for whatever reason, because you're just, you've got a lot on the go, you're trying to juggle too many things, taking it in that luteal phase is useful as well. So that's in the second half of your cycle, from sort of like day 15 onward, if you have a 28-day cycle.
Right. Cool. Okay, flax is the holy grail. That's good to know.
Much, yes.
And what about maybe some foods that we can reduce in our diets?
Yes. So there's different things that I recommend for women for trying to isolate PMS symptoms in particular. So definitely in your luteal phase, reducing your alcohol and caffeine has been shown to reduce any anxious or worrying feelings that you might have that are really in that PMS window. And it will also help improve your sleep as well. So alcohol in particular, it's been shown you'll fall asleep more easily, but you won't reach deep levels of restorative sleep. And you might be more prone to like waking up in the middle of the night. So you might get a little bit of insomnia. So reducing that alcohol content, especially during your PMS window, the caffeine content as well. So taking, I'd say like if you have 2 cups of coffee a day, bring it down to 1 in your PMS window, just to make your anxious feelings and your PMS a lot better.
Yes, because those symptoms do tend to happen after you ovulate, right? Or more so,
yes.
Kind of in those 2 weeks building up to your week of menses. Yeah, so I've actually found that to be useful for myself. Reducing coffee especially. I mean, I don't drink anymore, but that was probably a big thing too. Just reducing coffee in general makes a world of difference to my irritability, to my anxiety, and not just when I'm on my period, but in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Welcome everybody that has joined in the past couple minutes. I'm happy to see so many familiar faces. Put a little wave in there if you like our content. If anyone has missed the first part of this video, I'm happy to email you a replay. Just send me a DM or send Dr. Liz a DM. Okay, so let's move on to exercise. And I'm curious to know about this because I have a background in exercise physiology. And so we learned basically nothing about what to do for women at all, either during pregnancy or during, PMSing or during your period, which exercises are better, which exercises are worse. And of course it's more individual than anything else. But what do you have to say about that in terms of maybe the best exercise you can do, or if there's a specific exercise and time frame in between your period that you can do?
Yes, so I would agree with what we learn in terms of the research out there. There's not tons of research done on women, and there's not tons of research done on women on different forms of birth control versus not, different times of their cycles versus not. So there's still a lot to be learned, but I'll say this about I think exercise and hormonal health. So definitely I hear there's lots of things that can be useful, but I think that to get the biggest bang for your buck is aerobic exercise, particularly for PMS. And although there's, let's say, there's lots of different types of aerobic exercises, I think the one that I recommend the most is probably walking. And if it's
nice,
it's the one thing that I wish if I could bottle and sell to patients. The one thing I would absolutely 100% do. So I definitely work with a lot of people who like hear the word exercise and they kind of dread it. And with everything that comes with it, like starting an exercise routine, like there's a whole relationship between you and your body and movement that I think people have to sort of tap in to understand your underlying blocks, common things you say to yourself about what you can and can't do around exercise. We definitely live in a very, we live, and we live in like a very sedentary world job-wise. You're always on the computer, on the phone. And I just know that figuring stuff out exercise-wise, movement-wise, can be super overwhelming, especially when you're just starting out sort of on your health and wellness journey. So I think my biggest initial step for people to try and do is incorporate walking more on a day-to-day basis, because first thing is you're already doing it. To probably get from point A to point B, you've already got it. You know kind of how to do it. So the key is to then insert walking into places where you kind of already do it, but maybe you can max it out a little bit more. So, and that's kind of the magical part about walking, is it's already in your routine and you just have to like tweak it in places. So there are lots of different things that you can do to like incorporate it into your day-to-day. Like you can do it first thing in the morning if you're someone who's like, I just have to get it done. So you can go out for like a 20-30 minute walk every day, like 5 days a week, you're golden. You can incorporate it into like your commute. So if you're someone who uses public transit, or even if you have the opportunity to like get off early from a bus or your subway stop, and you walk like extra few blocks or that extra subway stop, that's getting it in. If you take the stairs at work, if you take the stairs at school, in your house or building, apartment building, whatever the case may be, that's extra time, and walking incorporated your day. You can do things like park further away. I kind of mentioned it before. Park further away from your school, place of work. Doing errands, just park further away in your parking lot. You don't have to park blocks and blocks away. Just park like an extra 2-minute walk. That adds up. You can do things like at work. You can do like HR initiatives. You can start walking groups like in and around your neighborhood, or different friends, family, things like that. You can go do like great, amazing hikes in different parts of Ontario. It's the summer, so you want to get out of the city, and like with COVID, like there's not much you can necessarily do, with people like in big places, but you can go and enjoy nature and go out for a gorgeous hike on the weekend and pre-plan that, get out of the city, put one foot in front of the other. Walking's a very meditative process, and I really encourage people to like do it, and like it cuts anxiety. It will like just take off that excess anxious worry energy and get you back into your body, to get into a sense of like, okay, I'm present, I'm here, and I can get from point A to point B. And it's honestly my favorite. It's my favorite thing to recommend to people. And people think it's boring, and I'm like, no, it is gold. It is the one thing if I could like convince everybody to bottle and take, 100% I would.
Totally. I 100% agree with you there. I think going to the gym and, starting a new routine, if you're not someone who kind of has that routine already, is very, very intimidating. And that's the thing. You have to keep it simple. It's so easy to just go for a walk. Yes. Obviously we're privileged a little bit more than others, maybe, to just walk out and go for a walk. But even in terms of, getting more steps in your house, like using the stairs anywhere in your work, just little things like that really make a huge difference. And I mean, nowadays one has some sort of watch or phone that's counting their steps and congratulating them on reaching their goals. So I think that's super, super motivating for people. Oh, sorry. Hopefully the internet is okay there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. There's some issues, so my apologies if I tuned out at any point of that.
No problem. We're back.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, and I really want to emphasize that exercises doesn't have to be hard. And I love that you said that walking is one of the best ways to go about it. Walking doesn't have to be boring. You can actually really fully walk, look at plants, look at herbs around you, lots of stuff. So I'm really, really happy for that and happy that that exists. So that's probably the best thing to do. I see that Liz's video is cutting out here. Let's see if, can the people still hear me? Am I frozen in time? Not sure. Oh, okay. Dr. Liz just left. Hopefully she will be back. Let's see what happens, see if she comes back. So yeah, a few things there with, you know, really treating the anxiety part of PMS. Walking is a really great way. Acknowledging the feelings is a really great way as well. I wanted to say that about the walk, that it can actually be very useful for honoring that yin side again. There she is, going live. And so that yin side of your own psyche. Hey Liz, welcome back.
Hi. It's not a complete Instagram
Perfect.
live without tech issues, so my apologies, but welcome
I know.
to real life.
It's not a complete. All good, all good. We've been still going here. I'm just talking about how actually walking and walking slow, exercising slow can have a real effect on the yin aspect of your psyche and of your feminine and of your body. And really honoring that again, you know, you don't have to go and do a HIIT class every day during your period. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us don't feel like that anyway.
Nope.
So really listen to your body and just hone in on the tiny, small, subtle things that we can do to help ourselves.
Yes.
And so
absolutely.
now that Dr. Liz is back, let's focus a little bit more now on herbs. Botanical medicine is one of my favorite things to talk about. And so I know that there are a few specific herbs out there for PMS or balancing hormones and stuff like that. And I'm sure Dr. Liz can kind of take us through those. But I did want to talk about a couple just for anxiety, which has really helped. Oh, I'm getting a comment here saying they can't hear Dr. Liz on Instagram. Let's see if your headphones work.
Can you guys hear me now?
And we'll wait and see if people can hear Dr. Liz. I can hear you. No problem.
Dolores, can you hear me okay?
Let's.
All right, I'm going to turn it on and off again.
Her internet went.
Not yet.
Sure thing.
Okay, Laura says.
Okay, Laura says can't hear. Not yet. Okay, so go ahead and Liz, I'm just going to get you to unplug or on Bluetooth your headphones. Yeah.
I've done it once.
Okay, cool. Or maybe you could just go without headphones if you don't mind.
Sure.
That might work as well.
Now for the folks.
How about now for the folks at home listening? And Liz, we are recording this on Zoom as well. So just turn down your volume on your side.